On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank, we jump right into local college football news. The Big 12 preseason poll and preseason All Big 12 team were released. We'll break those down and give you the latest update on OU's game against Missouri State. In the National College Football Roundup, we look at the biggest stories, including Power 5 testing protocols, the SEC schedule, and a tough loss for Texas on the recruiting trip. In Football Guys Talkin Basketball, we discuss Zion leaving the bubble and break down the latest updates on the Oklahoma City Thunder. We give you our winners and losers of the weekend and look at why OU and OSU aren't cutting any sports and keeping it local. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right? Oh man, Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, July 20th. And you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank. Now we're recording this on Sunday night. And Ted, it is utter chaos at the Ikard household right now. Movers come tomorrow, and there's just shit everywhere, man. It is absolute chaos. And my wife and I we're kind of just doing it by ourselves, and it's mostly her. I haven't done that much, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh honey, I have to go record the podcast. Sorry. You can keep packing up the dishes by yourself. But it's gonna be a late night. I can feel it. I'm gonna be up till the wee hours of the morning. We kind of procrastinated a little bit, which is not normally our style, but
everyone that moves procrastinates, and it's a fire sale for the last day and a half.
Oh, it's going to be – and the weird part about it is we're moving everything from our current house into our new house, but everything that's in our current house is going to be the furniture for the upstairs of the new house. Now, we built our new house like, hey, forever home, right? We're thinking kids, all that stuff down the line. It'll be entirely too many rooms when we move into it, and we'll look like idiots. But so all of this furniture is going upstairs, and then we're getting new stuff for like the master bedroom and all that stuff. So I didn't realize we had so much stuff. There's so much stuff, Teddy.
I'm telling you, the best thing about moving is it's the only opportunity you're really ever going to get to throw away all of your crap. Just jettison all of the junk, throw it in a dumpster, and never think about it again. Here's what's crazy. So we did the same thing. We built a house, and then when our house sold and our new house that we're building wasn't quite ready to move into, so there was like a little, grace period there. But
and the same thing is happening to us. We're going to live at my mother-in-law's for it's supposed to be like 10 days. We'll see.
Yeah, ours was supposed to be a week. We were there a month.
Oh, God.
So here's the funny thing, though. When we packed up our house, it was the same thing. It was like 24, 36 hours of just chaos, scrambling, long hours trying to get it all done. We finally, and it's like, I think 10 o'clock the night before we're supposed to be out, and it's like, oh my God, we're finally out, and we're about to walk out of the house, and I'm like, oh my God, the attic. I had forgotten about everything that was in the attic, and we were about to drive off. It's like, we got everything, final walkthrough, yeah, we're good. And I walked out to the garage, and I was like, oh my God. So that's what I had to push on through the evening, I should say.
That sounds miserable, but that's what it's kind of looking like tonight at the Ikard household. Now, luckily, maybe a few Will and Wiley hard seltzers will get me through. Guys, yes. Stop acting like you're too manly and just accept it. Hard seltzers are amazing, and there's only one hard seltzer that we drink on this podcast, and that is Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer from Coop Ale Works. It's perfect for any occasion. We drink it by the pool, at the lake, and at the tailgate, and I guess now while moving. It's made in Oklahoma, and it's absolutely delicious. I dare you to try the pineapple and say it's not incredible. Will and Wiley is customized for the Oklahoma lifestyle. Go find it right now in a store near you, and go follow them on social media at Will and Wiley. All right, Ted, let's get right to it. A ton to talk about when it comes to local college football news. Let's start here. No surprise at all. The Big 12 preseason poll is out as voted on by the media. OU clearly voted to win the conference. They received 80 first-place votes. Oklahoma State picked to finish second. They received 6 first-place votes. Texas picked to finish third. They received 4 first-place votes. So if you're good at math out there, Oklahoma received 80 of 90 first-place votes. When you've won the conference 5 years in a row, that's kind of just how it has to be, right? I mean, that's no surprise, even with the questions at quarterback. Maybe there's questions, who's going to step up and be the playmakers for you? Who's going to replace CeeDee Lamb? All these kind of things. What's the defense going to look like? Is it going to be much improved year 2 for Alex Grinch? But no one cares. When you've won it 5 years in a row, I mean, there's no other way to vote, right?
I mean, it says a lot about Oklahoma, but it also says a lot about this conference, right? Whenever Oklahoma probably as many question marks going into this season as they've had in recent years. I mean, we're going to be starting a freshman at quarterback most likely. We're going to have to replace our biggest wide receiver playmaker from a year ago. Got to replace our first round defensive player in a long time. So, man, it's good for Oklahoma that they can replace those things and still be picked to win the conference. But, I mean, it doesn't really say a whole lot about the Big 12 whenever that's the case. Whenever you got all these other teams and Oklahoma replacing a quarterback, all those different parts that we've talked about, and still, I mean, 80 of the 90 first-place votes, I mean, that's crazy.
And I've compared it to this before, and when it comes to sports, it's like LeBron James when he was in the Eastern Conference, right? Mm-hmm. You just don't bet against him. And that's where Oklahoma's at right now in this conference. Now,
it's like Kansas and basketball in the Big 12.
Exactly. I was pretty excited to see Oklahoma State get some respect. You know, ended up being picked to finish second. I think there's some serious high expectations in Stillwater. I think a lot of people expecting Spencer Sanders to make a big jump. Clearly, Chuba Hubbard, Tyler Wallace back on that offense. But the big question for them is, what's that Jim Knowles defense going to look like? I know that they've got a bunch of starters back, but those starters weren't very good last year. You know, they had – no, don't get me wrong, they did some good things at times, but we'll see. Were you surprised at all that Texas came in behind Oklahoma State with a fourth-year quarterback like Ellinger coming back, with some talent on the defensive side of the football coming back? But, Tom Herman, he changed both coordinators. You got Chris Ash coming in as a defensive coordinator. You got Yursich as your offensive coordinator. I just don't know. In this whole thing, we have to factor in that this offseason was not normal at all. So I don't know, but it seems like a no-brainer, OU being voted to win the conference, of course. But then Oklahoma State being in front of Texas, I thought that was pretty interesting because there's a lot of people that are on the Longhorns bandwagon leading into the season.
Am I surprised Oklahoma State is ahead of Texas? Not really. I mean, they've been talked about quite a bit with the guys that they've got coming back. I mean, been pretty widely picked to have a good season. Now Texas, I don't even think I wouldn't even. I put out my Big 12 rankings. I don't even have Texas third. I've got them actually fifth. So it's shocking in a sense that Texas is almost every year picked way above where they end up. So I don't know, maybe some people have learned their lesson, but I mean, they got 4 first place votes. and I'm not saying they don't. I mean, maybe they get first place in the Big 12 this year, but explain to me how you can vote for them first place after what you saw last year. That was an 8-5 football team last year. They were 5-4 in a crappy Big 12. And like, has there been some type of miraculous transfer group of guys that have come in? No. I guess you could say that Tom Herman got new coordinators, and these guys,
which is always a good thing. That's always what you want because, wait, his coordinators took head coaching jobs, right?
Well, I mean, no.
They got fired. They got fired.
They got fired. And I'm sure these guys are great coordinators. Yursich, has done some good things. But here's the thing. They haven't had any time with their players at all. Their guys haven't had any chance to practice. They didn't get a spring with their guys. Last year was supposed to be the year coming off of a Sugar Bowl. They were terrible. 8-5 football team. Okay, so I don't know how anyone could pick them first place. Again, not saying that it doesn't happen. Sometimes teams come together and great things can take place, but I don't see it at all. I think Oklahoma State's better than Texas. I think Iowa State's better than Texas. And I think if TCU gets some decent play out of Max Duggan, TCU is going to be better than Texas.
Yeah. We'll see. I guess when you look at the Longhorns this year, you do see 7 starters back on offense, 9 back on defense. And it is a reality that Texas has the second most amount of talent in the conference. They do. Clearly Oklahoma's got the most. And with the way that Texas is recruited, Tom Herman's recruited over the last 3 years, they should be better. I feel like we say that every year, but just a no-brainer for OU to be picked to win the conference. Pumped to see Oklahoma State get some respect. Texas picked 3rd, and then rounding out the rest of the conference, Iowa State picked 4th. Baylor 5th, which I think is way too high for Baylor. I think Baylor's going to take a big step back this year simply because they just lost so many players. TCU picked 6th. Kansas State picked 7th. West Virginia picked 8th. Tech picked 9th. And the Jayhawks bringing it up the rear in 10th. Now, out of all these teams, if I had to pick one team that I think that the media will be wildly off on, I'm going with Texas Tech. I don't know why I have so much faith in Matt Wells in year 2. I just think that if Alan Bowman stays healthy, I really do. I think that this team could surprise some people. And I'll admit it, I am a little bit blinded by my love for Matt Wells. Mm-hmm. Talked to him quite a bit. He's just such a likable guy. And I think that I really do think they can put up some numbers. Now, defensively, I don't know. I guess Eli Howard was the guy, defensive end for them, was picked first team or preseason All Big 12, but they got some holes to fill. So we'll see, but that's the one team. Do you have one of those teams where you're like, I feel like they're pretty off on them?
Not really.
Sounds like yours is Texas.
Well, yeah, I got Texas 5, but I'm with you on Tech. I look at it in tiers. I think Oklahoma's in a class by themselves. I think OSU, Iowa State, TCU, and if I have to, I'll include Texas. That's kind of the next tier that I could see all of those teams fighting for a berth in the Big 12 championship. And then between Kansas State, Tech, Baylor, and I guess I'll throw West Virginia in there. I think that's the next group where I think any one of those teams could make a run and at least show better than they were picked. But, one last thing on Texas. I just don't know how much that team – okay, you got new coordinators, you've got a lot of talent, but what's the one thing you have to have? You got to believe in the top man, right? If you don't believe in your head coach as a football team, you're not going to go anywhere. There's going to be mutiny. There's going to be infighting. There's going to be guys questioning schedule, practice, routine, all of that stuff. And I watched Tom Herman headbutt one of his players to try and get the whole team fired up last year in the last game of the season, and they all stood there and looked at him like he was an idiot. Okay, so that doesn't exactly speak to me like a team that's ready to lay down and give it everything they've got for their coach.
That is still an all-time hilarious clip. But I will say this about their offseason. You know, we talked about kind of the social justice initiatives that were kind of player-driven there in Austin. I do think Tom Herman has gained some respect from his players with how he has handled that entire situation. We'll see if that brings the Longhorns team a little closer. All right, Ted, the preseason All Big 12 team came out as well. And let's look at the local guys that are on it. Chuba Hubbard was named preseason Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think that anyone really, especially with the question mark of, and once again, we think it's going to be Rattler, but with the question mark of OU's quarterback being up in the air, Chuba Hubbard is the obvious choice for preseason Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, he may be the most talented guy in the conference, so I don't think anyone's surprised by that. And then Spencer Rattler was named preseason Newcomer of the Year, and I don't think that surprises anyone either, right? These are two no-brainer selections in my mind.
Yeah, I agree on Chuba Hubbard being the preseason Offensive Player of the Year. Now, I agree with him being the preseason Offensive Player of the Year, but I will say that I would give him almost zero chance to be the award winner for Offensive Player of the Year this season, if that makes sense. I don't think he's going to get near the carries he did last year.
I hope he doesn't.
Right. I think Tylan Wallace is going to chew up a big piece of that offense and kind of steal some of his star power. So, I mean, he's kind of the guy that has to get it going in after last year's performance, but I would be shocked if he wins it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, but you mentioned Tylan Wallace, and if Tylan Wallace plays well for them, I mean, that should open up their run game, because you got to remember going back late last year for them, he was racking up yards against loaded boxes. So if Spencer Sanders improves as a passer, they're spreading it around a little more. Maybe they get some light boxes there and Chuba gets some more explosive plays that way. I don't know, but I don't think anyone is surprised he was voted preseason Offensive Player of the Year. Now, some people maybe were surprised about Rattler being Newcomer of the Year just because Lincoln Riley continues to say it's quarterback competition between him and Tanner Mordecai. But I think with the numbers, the numbers that the OU quarterback position puts up, I mean, there's really no one else you can vote for.
Right. The only surprise I had was that he played last year. I didn't realize he could still be a newcomer, but I mean, it makes sense. He just barely got in. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the no-brainer pick for sure.
Yeah. Other local guys on the Big 12 or on the preseason All Big 12 team, Tylan Wallace, now the knee injury last year. We're all hoping that he just gets back to where he was. I still, that play against Iowa State last year where he truck sticks the guy that stiff arms the guy to the ground, still one of my favorite plays in recent college football history. It was just so sick. Charleston Rambo makes preseason All Big 12, and he had a solid year last year. You go back and look at the stats, had some big games. Now, he also kind of disappeared in some moments, and I think sometimes that was more of a product of Jalen Hurts than it was of what Charleston Rambo was doing. You look at the O-line, Creed Humphrey, Adrian Ely, and then Tevin Jenkins, all on the preseason All Big 12 team. Any surprises there? Any surprises that were omitted from the list?
I don't think so. I think it's all pretty straightforward stuff here. The Tylan Wallace is absolutely a no-brainer. He's one of the better deep ball wide receivers I've seen in a long time. It's funny. I don't know. Have you ever heard Toby Rowland talk about Tylan Wallace and make the inside joke about him? So whenever Tylan was having his huge year on one of the OU broadcasts, it's late in the season, and Toby says sometime during the broadcast, he's like, man, this Big 12 conference, just so many good wide receivers. And he lists off like 8 guys, and he doesn't list Tylan Wallace. who was like leading the Big 12 at the time. And,
who's a Biletnikoff finalist that year.
And all of the Oklahoma State fans just like poured on top of him and still give him crap to this day about it. And I do whenever I get a chance as well. So if you ever think about it, ask Toby if he knows who Tylan Wallace is.
I definitely will. I wonder if he put him in his children's book. Did you see that T-Row wrote a children's book? Not to get too off topic, but what
He's
is it? Unhitch the
best-selling author
Wagon
right now. Yeah, Unhitch the Wagon.
Go buy it, people. It's on Amazon. Just go buy it. Why not?
Pretty cool deal.
Defensive side of the ball on the preseason All Big 12 team, you've got two guys, Ronnie Perkins, Colby Harvell-Peel. Those are the only guys on defense. I don't really know who else to make an argument for. I think maybe you could make an argument for possibly a guy like, I don't know, Trey Brown, maybe, if he has kind of a breakout year. But
it's tough the way they did the secondary, because there's like 5 spots and like 4 of them are safeties, right?
Yeah.
And you've got so it's hard because Peel deserves to be on there. Eisworth is unbelievable. So it's tough. And Trey Brown, I think he's got a really good chance to be there by the end of the season. I saw his tweet come out right after they released the team that he's been disrespected for too long. So, I mean, that's a good thing. That's motivation for him. No one cares about preseason lists at the end of the day. It's all about the postseason list. So I'm glad he's motivated by that. You know, just talking to, you know, when they first started winter workouts and doing some stuff with the coaches, I talked to Alex Grinch, and I didn't even bring up Trey Brown. I was just like, how the guy's doing? He's like, dude, it's compared to last year, it's night and day with the attitude and the attention to detail. And he said, like, Trey Brown is the guaranteed guy. Last year, he's kind of questioning some of the stuff that we did, some of the way that we ran to the ball and all these different things. And this year, he's the leader of it. So you love to hear those type of things. I think he's set up for a nice year.
Good. And then last local guy on the preseason All Big 12 team, the most important player on the field, according to Teddy Lehman, and that would be the kicker, Gabe Burkich. No surprise, right? Guy didn't miss last year, so you got to put him on there.
You got to put him on there, whether it's for the kicks or for the preseason swag. You got to put Burkich on there. Huge leg. He's 100%. I mean, I'm just – not that I want him to miss. I just want to see the reaction after a miss. See if he still has like the same like he may not even notice that he missed the kick, you know?
He just drops to his knees. He's just like, why? No. Just the opposite reaction of what we'd expect. I guess
if he could keep the same level of confidence that he has right now after missing a kick, then he's going to be fantastic.
Bold prediction. He will miss a kick this season.
It'll happen at some point.
It'll happen. I guess if you're looking for the local guys maybe that got snubbed, first guy that comes to mind, probably Kennedy Brooks, but Puka Williams being preseason All Big 12, I'm a massive Puka Williams fan, so we'll see how that plays out. I got no problem with Puka Williams being on there instead of Kennedy Brooks. Now, Kenny Brooks' football team's going to win a lot more games.
Right.
But Puka Williams is a hell of a football player. And then I guess the most hyped Oklahoma State player that's not on there has got to be Eamon Ongbongbemiga, but I just don't know whose spot he would take. I don't even think – I think Malcolm Rodriguez is better than him anyway. So I
do too.
So
I mean,
I don't know.
I like him, but he's not like an every down guy to me. He gets thrown around a lot out there, but then he'll have a nice speed rush. He'll put a move on someone, get to the quarterback, or chase something down, you know, on the backside and make a play. But at the point of attack, he's not very good. So maybe he's going to have some big improvement this year.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, Ted, it is still July, so of course it is still watch list season, baby. Let's go.
Love it.
And we got a couple local guys that are on some watch lists. You look at the Biletnikoff Award watch list, Charleston Rambo and Tylan Wallace, both on it. Clearly, Tylan Wallace back in 2018 was a finalist for that award. A lot of people think he should have won that award. And we'll see if Rambo can step into some big shoes.
You think he'll be the leading receiver for OU this coming season?
See, before Hazelwood got hurt, I would have put my money on Hazelwood. I thought that he was the most talented. I guess what it would be between Rambo and Theo Weiss is kind of where
I like Theo Weiss a lot.
I do too.
Man.
I do, but Rambo's got one thing you can't teach, and that dude he can fly.
And here's the thing, I like Theo Weiss. I like him after the catch. I think he's incredibly strong. He'll run over guys. He'll get some good tough yardage. But our offense is set up for. I mean, it's almost like a lot of passing plays are kind of like running plays where they're already blocking on the front side and they're throwing like the drag route. And, dude, he's going to get a lot of those designed easy catches that turn into big yardage.
And just think, we know that there's still a lot of question marks around the season. We're not idiots. I think everyone realized that. But we're going to keep talking about this season like it's going to happen, people. So just deal with it. One thing, I think that this version of Lincoln Riley's offense is going to be the version that Lincoln has always envisioned, right? Kind of a blend of what he did with Kyler and Baker, and you can do that in one guy with Spencer Rattler. And I just think the passing attack is going to be more advanced this year. And we talked about Rambo, we talked about Weiss, but I saw a video, and I've heard some things that the Theo Howard kid, the transfer, the Achilles is looking good. He's looking like he could be ready to go. So maybe him as a dark horse leading them in receiving. Now I think that'd be a long shot, but he's stopping and starting well, which he hurt his Achilles in January, and it wasn't like a minor thing. How is he back already? This kid must be
that's what I was about to say.
Superhuman.
Thank God for technology, because there was a time not very long ago when an Achilles injury was a death sentence for an athlete. And to see guys coming back from that, like a Liz Frank fracture used to be a death sentence. We had Hollywood Brown had one of those, played a little bit with it, had the surgery, and he's bounced back as good as ever. So it's good to see these guys that are getting injured, getting back and healthy and bouncing back in a strong way. So that's good news. I love to hear it.
It's good news. And I was pretty pumped up when I saw the video and heard some good things. Now, another watch list, the Mackey Award for the best tight end in the country. There's a couple guys locally that don't exactly have the stats to really warrant being on this list, but I suppose it's all about their potential. Ted, Austin Stogner makes the Mackey Award watch list. Now, remember, he had those 2 big touchdown receptions in the comeback in Waco. They're expecting him to take a big step this year. I'm not sure if I think he can get to kind of a Mark Andrews level type player, but the coaches feel like he can bring a lot in the passing game. So it was pretty exciting to see him on the list, even though when you look at the stats, you're going, that doesn't add up. I know how much you love Stogner just because he's huge.
No, it's true. I think he's fantastic. And if they use him properly, which they don't need me to tell them how to use him properly, they know how to, I think it could be a huge addition to this offense. We've seen late in Mark Andrews' career, they started doing double tight stuff with both tight ends on the line of scrimmage in traditional tight end positions. And I think what they found, I think they did that to start showing that Mark Andrews could be an inline tight end to help his draft position. And I think what they found is it gave defenses hell on the other side trying to figure out what Oklahoma's going to do. Because with the exact same personnel, they'll line up in empty, right? And you'll have to have big linebackers covering Mark Andrews or Braden Willis, who are both really athletic guys.
Braden Willis looks really small right now. He's not just a completely jacked out of his mind. Oh my gosh, that kid, he found the buffet this offseason. He looks fantastic.
So, I mean, whenever they did that, defenses they ended up kind of being screwed because they have to stay small against those formations, and we just run the rock at them left and right. So I think we found something that we've seen a lot more double tight end formations from Lincoln Riley since then. And I think they're going to start a lot of that with Stogner. And I'm telling you, this kid, if they go to him and use him properly and get those matchups, he's going to be a fantastic weapon. Now, is he going to be like a split out tight end that they just throw the ball to over and over? Nope. And I'm not saying he's going to be there, but I compare him to a guy like Gronkowski, who's a really good inline blocker. At least early in his career, he was a really good inline blocker. And they had a couple of different times that they would go one-on-one to him in matchups and get big play potential. Obviously down on the goal line, because of the size, you would see the Patriots use him all the time. Lincoln Riley loves the Patriots, has always watched that offense and been a big fan of what they did, a big student of what they did. So I think you're going to see some similarities there to Stogner. Now, Gronkowski never been a big volume guy receiver, but the plays were always really nicely designed for big chunk play potential.
Yeah, and don't be surprised to see more two tight end stuff. You know, with there being some question marks about the depth at wide receiver with some of the looming suspensions, you know, guys out with injury. Don't be surprised to see Lincoln Riley get really creative. And let's not forget, he spent the entire NFL playoffs watching Kansas City run a bunch of two tight end stuff, also get in some stuff with tight end and fullback, and even some stuff with two tight ends and a fullback. You could see him getting really creative with Stogner, Willis, and Jeremiah Hall. Just another wrinkle, right, for Lincoln Riley to play with.
Here's another thing, too, about the double tight formations and stuff like that. And this is another Patriots thing that you saw happen a couple of years ago, and they used it relentlessly. I mean, what's kind of happened in the Big 12 is we saw last year people kind of got away from it, but there's not a lot of teams defensively that are set up with their personnel to stop double tight, fullback, heavy sets. You know, they just don't have the guys. They're small at linebacker, so they can stay multiple. Your edge guys are smaller, kind of pass rush specialists that aren't good against, you know, a tight end that's 6'6", 265 pounds, or a big tackle. So that gives you another added advantage.
Yeah. So it could get pretty interesting from a personnel perspective from Lincoln Riley. Now he's going to do what he's been doing, but I could see him adding some more two tight end formations this year, and that could be really, really difficult for teams to defend, especially when you got a guy like Willis or Hall that can be an inline tight end, but also get in the backfield, play a fullback, H-back type role. It just makes it really hard to defend, man. I mean, really hard.
Here's the other thing too, and I love this about last season, and I think the added benefit was it helped his defense out a lot. Lincoln Riley slowed it way down and ran a lot more. And like the Oklahoma State game is the perfect example. Slow it down, grind it out, have long, sustained drives instead of some of the stuff that we saw before where it's just go, 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 score as fast as you possibly can. Now, I don't know if that was a one-off thing because Jalen Hurts, or if that was, Lincoln Riley slowing down a little bit and saying, I've got to start helping my defenses out a little bit and playing a little bit more ball control on offense, still having success, still getting yards, still moving the chains and scoring points, but keeping my defense in mind and trying to limit the possessions that they're out there.
Just a reminder that if you ever hear anyone talk about Lincoln Riley's offense as an up-tempo offense, they're a moron. OU played at one of the slowest paces in all of college football last year. So every time you heard a guy go, oh, it's just this breakneck pace, up-tempo, high-flying Lincoln Riley offense, they're throwing it all over the place. Like, actually, they're playing at one of the slowest paces in the country, and they're running the ball like 65% of the time. So you're a moron, and you haven't watched a single Oklahoma game. Just saying. Just remember.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing. Everyone, for whatever reason, Oklahoma's been typecast as a air raid offense that just throws it 70 times a game, and they haven't been that way really at all under Lincoln.
Now, one offense that is that way, and they snap it very quickly, played at extremely high pace, is Oklahoma State's offense. And Jelani Woods, their freak show of an athlete at cowboy back, tight end, H-back, whatever you want to call him, he is also on the Mackey Award watch list. Once again, not a guy that's had a ton of production, but with Chuba Hubbard, with Tylan Wallace, you've got Stoner. He may get some more chances this year in the middle of the field, Ted, and they speak so highly of his athletic ability. We just haven't really seen it from a production standpoint, but maybe get some more targets this year. I don't know, but I was a little surprised seeing him on this watch list, but they do talk about what a freak he is quite a bit.
Well, I mean, traditionally, you would think that this is the absolute perfect offense for Jelani Woods. Heavy run with Chuba Hubbard. You've got one of the best deep ball wide receivers on the outside. So the protection, defensively is going to be on the outside with Tylan Wallace and packing the box against Chuba Hubbard. Opens up tons of play action stuff over the middle, drawing the linebackers up on play action, hitting them in behind. Or you've got those good one-on-ones with, slower linebackers, not as good cover guys, because the safeties, like, you're not going to want to drop down an extra safety to take on, a tight end whenever you're really thin on the back end with Tylan Wallace on the outside. So, yeah, I think they're, if they honestly see him as that type of weapon, this would be the perfect offense to utilize him in.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what kind of year he has because, like you said, he should have the opportunities with defenses focusing on the other weapons. They're probably gonna live with playing him man to man and saying, okay, yeah, we'll see if Jelani Woods can beat us. So that should open up some good opportunities for him to make some big time plays, maybe put up some stats. All right, last bit of local college football news. Joe Castiglione talked to our man Toby Rowland late last week about the Missouri State game. They still haven't heard back from the NCAA on that petition to bump the game up a week. If that would have happened, they would have started their enhanced training camp this weekend. Instead, they were doing some testing with Benny Wiley. Your boy Asamoah put up 29 on the bench, allegedly, Ted, which is ridiculous, but good for him. So Oklahoma's still waiting on a decision on that waiver. Now, something very interesting that Joe Castiglione mentioned was that Missouri State has committed to using test kits provided by OU following the protocols that OU wants them to follow. And they also will use OU's lab for coronavirus testing leading up to the game. Now, I'm still doubtful that this game happens because in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's the risk reward of this football game? But with what we've seen with OU's latest coronavirus testing results, they're doing something right. But the bottom line is we still don't know what's going to happen when actual football practice starts. But I think Missouri State, they had no choice. They were like, yeah, we'll do whatever you say, guys. You're going to bankroll our entire athletic department with this game.
Well, do you remember my original theory on the NCAA and the petition being faxed into some random room and no one has even seen the fax yet?
Correct.
I still think that that's what's happened. Why would it take the NCAA more than 7 minutes to agree to this thing? You call the athletic director of Oklahoma, hey, we see your petition here. As long as Missouri State's fine with it and you guys can figure out the arrangements, what do we care when you play? But no, here we are. It's going to drag on forever and ever. That's the way the NCAA works. But, yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, Joe C. didn't seem like they were anyway putting a pause on this thing. They're proceeding like it's going to happen. They're talking about the testing protocols and how they're going to manage all of that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, as of right now, I think it's a go. But, I mean, how do I honestly feel? I mean, I don't know. Cancel
it and schedule Alabama. That's how I honestly feel. There you go.
Because they'll show up no matter what. I mean, you better be ready to play on that date because they're showing up with a football team to play the game. So, no, I mean, I think Joe C's doing all the things properly that you have to. I mean, they're making the proper arrangements. They've done all the things testing-wise to put them in a good position to play this thing as far as protocols with Missouri State. So they've agreed. Doesn't seem like there's any issue between the two teams coming to an agreement. So I don't know.
Yeah, I still don't think that game happens, but it's looking like it's going to. Sure, why not? Okay, fine. Now, we'll see. Only time will tell. All right, Ted, let's move on to our National College Football News Roundup, and that is brought to you by Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. As schools look to reopen in the fall, parents want to provide the best possible educational experience and spiritual development for their children. There's no better place for that than Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. A one-to-one iPad setting makes McGuinness students fully prepared to continue high-level learning from home. A 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio guarantees no student is overlooked. In addition to athletic programs and clubs, Bishop McGuinness's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. Financial aid is available. For more information, visit bmchs.org. All right, let's start with a story from Sports Illustrated. They obtained a copy of the coronavirus testing standards that are going to be put out by the Power Five. These appear to be similar to the document the NCAA put out late last week. Some interesting things in this, Ted. Teams will be required to test football players within 72 hours of games. Seems pretty reasonable. Now, probably the most interesting thing in this entire document, players that test positive will be required to miss at least 10 days of competition in isolation. So the really weird part is players that were, quote, within 6 feet of an infected person for at least 15 minutes while one or both parties were not wearing a mask, that tested positive have to quarantine for 14 days, even if they test negative for the virus. Wait, what? So if you test positive, you're out for 10 days. If you're practicing with or against the guy that tests positive, you've got to quarantine for 14. And it doesn't even matter if you test negative during the quarantine. How does that make sense?
It doesn't make any sense at all, like a lot of things that we've seen throughout this last couple of months. But here's the thing. So it's like, this is an honor system, right? Because they can't follow every single player on every team to check and time how long they were around each person and whether or not it was 6 feet and whether or not they had masks on. So this is an honor system.
Do you think there's a GA who's going to be in charge of logging practice time, like how long these people are spending next to each other? Some poor GA is going to have that as a job.
No, I don't think so. What I think is going to happen is no one is going to ever say that they were within 6 feet of an infected person for 15 minutes while neither one of them were wearing a mask. That's what I think will happen. No one will say, oh, yeah, you know what? Send me into 14 days of quarantine, even though you have no way to check it or verify it.
Even though I tested negative.
Yeah, throw me into 14 days of quarantine. Yeah, that'll happen. That'll never, I mean, this is basically a built-in out for everyone that you don't even have to, the contact tracing doesn't even have to work.
Yeah, I'm not. Now, I'm sure there's a rhyme and reason for that. I'm just maybe not smart enough to understand why a person that tested positive would have a shorter period. And then I think I also read that person that tests positive, they don't have to test negative or something. Like, I was like, and they can still come back to practice. I was like, guys, there's too much going on. Just wake me up when the season starts and tell me what the rules are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Everything that is put out, which you got to understand, and I get it to a certain point, but this is all cover your ass stuff for these colleges,
Yep.
In case something were to happen, this is all to make sure they went down all of the proper protocols and everything, and absolutely everything is covered. And I think by doing that, you're going to really curb your potential for having a season. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you could have some big chunks of your football team miss 2 weeks with how this thing reads. So we'll see. One other thing in it, guys have to wear masks on the sideline, even if they come off the field to talk to a coach. So I wonder who's going to be in charge of getting guys masks when they jog over to the sideline to talk to a coach. That'll be a fun job to have.
I bet they're all going to end up having the net. Have you seen the net gator masks?
Oh, yeah. And just have it around your neck and throw it on if you go to the sideline. That makes sense.
I bet that's what everyone has on. I mean, probably 24 hours a day. That way you can never be hit for being within 6 feet of an infected person for 15 minutes while not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Good time to be in the neck scarf game, I guess.
There's been some guy who's had a neck scarf business for the last 20 years. And it's just never worked and was about to get out of it.
Neck scarf is not the right term. I don't know why I said that. I don't know what you call those things, but that business is booming, baby. All right. Ross Dellinger wrote an article for Sports Illustrated about kind of what the leaders in the SEC are thinking when it comes to the schedule. And the SEC, they want to save the big non-conference games. It does not sound like any SEC team wants to play a 10-game conference-only schedule. One leader in the SEC said that was laughable in the article. Now, they prefer a 9 or 10-game schedule with 8 conference games and 1 or 2 non-conference games. They want to save games like Florida State, South Carolina Clemson, Georgia Tech, but they also want to save games like Oklahoma Tennessee, Texas LSU. Now, there could be some legal challenges if they play those non-conference games but cancel the bye games against FCS opponents, but I'm sure they'll deal with that if they have to. It's going to be interesting, Ted, to see if the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC can all stay on the same page with all of this, because we saw the Big 10 break off and say, hey, you guys figure it out. This is what we're doing. Pac-12 followed suit. Now it's up to the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC to work together and make this thing work. Now, once again, we know that there's a lot of unknowns about football season right now, but this could end up being really damn cool for college football fans if these 3 conferences are able to work together and put together some non-conference games.
Well, it would give us, ultimately what everyone's kind of always asked for, right? A season where all these top teams stop playing scrubs and only play other Power 5 football teams. So, I mean, that's kind of what everyone has always wanted, except for the smaller schools. I mean, because those bye games fund their entire athletic program. So I understand that it is kind of a necessary part of college football. Now, the one thing that I haven't been able to find anywhere, and maybe you know the answer to this, if those the bye games, can they just cancel those and have no obligation to the other opponent? Right.
I would assume. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm a contract lawyer, but you would assume there's some sort of buyout language in those deals. And if an SEC team wanted to, that's the slippery slope, I think, for them to play some of these rivalry non-conference games and then not play those FCS games. I think that's probably something that the leaders in the SEC are trying to figure out. What would the legal ramifications of that be? Now, if I was, an athletic director in the SEC, I would figure out how to play a big non-conference opponent in the Big 12 or the ACC, get that game on national television, get revenue from it, and then just buy the FCS opponent out, give them the money I owed them so that they don't have to fold their entire athletic department, so I don't have that on my conscience, and still it makes money. That is how I am thinking about this. That's probably a really dumb way of thinking about it because I'm not. and an administrator in college athletics. So it's probably not that simple, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it is.
Or maybe it is. I don't know.
If they don't have to play the game and you still pay them, they'd probably agree to that with, no problem. I don't know. It kind of seems like the whole non-conference thing anyways, because it does, like we said originally, it's no safer to play your conference game than it is to play your non-conference game. Teams are still traveling to different pockets of the country. Some of these conferences spread huge regions of the United States. So it's no safer. It's all a money-saving issue because it makes sense to have Missouri State at Oklahoma and pay them a bunch of money to come here because you're going to make all your gate. You're going to sell a bunch of beer and all the different things that come with it. But if all of a sudden you're not going to have any fans in the stands, then it doesn't make sense to pay for that game. So I don't know. I don't know enough about it to offer an opinion. I hate to say that I want to see the non-conferences only against the other Power Fives, which I think would be really cool and make for a much better season for fans. But on the same hand, I understand that you lose a bunch of money to those non-Power Five schools, and ultimately you may lose a bunch of football programs across the country. And I like the fact that there's so many kids get to go play college football. So
right.
I don't know the perfect answer.
How about this? They just play the full season, right? It's that easy.
Let's
it's
go.
That easy. Yeah, there's nothing. There's no roadblocks or hurdles right now. This thing's simple, baby. Just play the whole thing. All right. Now, Ted, there was a rumor that Notre Dame and Bama could be playing week 1 since USC and Alabama got canceled. Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne destroyed all of our dreams and came out on Twitter and said that game is definitely not happening week 1. So anyone that thought that was going to happen, that's a big nope.
When I first heard this, I thought, well, that would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. That would be great to watch Notre Dame and Alabama play. But this goes against everything Nick Saban has done in the non-conference. Like USC is the perfect game because you're playing a team that's not very good, but has a big-time name where it looks like you're playing somebody, right? Notre Dame's actually really good. And I don't see Nick Saban agreeing to scrapping a USC game to go play a college football playoff contender early in the season before getting into that brutal conference schedule that they've got.
Yeah, he's like, I love Greg Byrne was like, we're excited for the home and home that's upcoming between us and the Irish, but yeah, we're definitely not playing that game. So I thought that was pretty funny. College football fans' dreams died very quickly. Indiana has paused football workouts because 6 players tested positive. Do we care about Indiana football? Does anyone care about Indiana football? I guess they have cool helmets every once in a while. That's about my extent of Indiana football knowledge. But I will say it's not good. It's still not good seeing a Power 5 football team have to pause workouts because guys are testing positive. That's not good for anyone in college football.
6 guys test positive. They shut down the whole off-season workouts. I don't know how that makes it any better, but, because those guys still live together in dorm rooms, off campus. They're still, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like if they have the ability to go send all 100 guys into their own pod somewhere, then I guess it would make sense. But
well, what about this? You just have all the guys that have tested positive that have the antibodies, and you put them like in a draft, and they all get put on teams, and then they play their own season.
the infected season.
The infected football league.
Joe Smith was an infected All-American in 2020. Pretty good player.
Hell, we'd see, Well, we'd see there'd be some damn good players, right?
Yeah,
especially
sure.
Locally. We know some really good players.
Hey man, I heard the
tested
best way to
positive
get
already.
drafted is to go infected.
Yeah.
Go play season of
Have
infected.
you
You're
have
on
you
to
heard
the
about the
NFL.
infected league, bro? Yeah, no, it's where all the best players are going now. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, one last thing for the national college football scene. The Brockermeyer, which is a tremendous last name,
Perfect.
but the Brockermeyer twins have committed to Alabama. Tommy Brockermeyer is an offensive tackle. He's the number 2 ranked prospect overall. James Brockermeyer is a center and is the 99th prospect overall. Really painful for the University of Texas. You hate to see it, Ted. You really hate to see the Longhorns take an L on the recruiting trail like this because, well, their brother currently plays at Texas. Their dad was an All-American at Texas, and their granddad played at Texas. Ouch. The twins, they go to Bama, and they just jilt the Longhorns at the altar. That had to hurt Tom Herman's soul.
It goes back to what I said about Tom Herman and having the trust of his team. If you're on a football team and your 2 twin brothers are some of the highest recruited kids in the country, and it's truly a great environment, and you love where you're at, and you trust your coach, you believe in your coach, and you believe that you're actually going to win a championship, playing a college football playoff, win a Big 12, have a chance to do all these great things, it would be a no-brainer that you get your brothers to come there and you tell them how great it is. You tell them what it's going to be like when they get there. If it's not like that, you probably say, guys, let me tell you something. Maybe you should go to Alabama because it ain't happening here. I don't know, dude.
It's just weird because Cosme's about to be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
It's just, their brother's got to get better at recruiting his brothers.
Well, and their dad and grandpa apparently too.
It's hard.
Don't you think this is a horrible look for Texas?
Yes, I do. When I read about it, I started laughing out loud. I was like, "Oh, that sucks."
These kids should have committed to Texas when they're in the 8th grade. It doesn't matter who the coach is.
But the one thing I will say about this entire thing, you've got 2 brothers that are both offensive linemen that are in the top 100 of the recruiting rankings. What can you say to them when they commit to Bama? Like, no, don't go there, man. Don't do that. That's stupid. Like, you can't say that about Alabama.
You can't say it's stupid, but you can shame them. That
you got to shame them.
Family is through and through Texas. Grandpa, come on, man. Don't you remember Granddad going to – it's just like – I don't know, man. I think I think it tells you more about the University of Texas than maybe anything we've seen recently.
Yeah. The Brockermeyer twins. I can't wait to, keep tabs on them. That's a great football. Last name. The Brockermeyers.
It sounds like an award, like an offensive lineman award. The Brockermeyer Trophy.
Here comes now. We definitely need to wait and see because he's going by Tommy now. I bet by the end there at Bama, he's Tom Brockermeyer. He gets real mature.
Maybe Thomas.
Oh, my God. Thomas Brockermeyer. I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but I'm going to keep saying it like that for his entire career.
Anytime you say the word or the name Brockermeyer, it just naturally comes out that way.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it has to do with like Brock Lesnar or what's happening, but I can't say Brockermeyer like in a normal voice. I just can't. It's impossible. All right, Ted, let's move on to our segments. And since it's Monday, you're going to get some football guys talking basketball. Yes, FGTB. And we've got a problem in the bubble. There's a bubble problem. Zion has left the NBA bubble now. It's for a family medical emergency. And he intends to rejoin the Pelicans at a later date. But Teddy, Zion Williamson is essentially the only reason that there's 22 teams at this thing. Adam Silver has to be so pissed off because they would have just done 16 teams. In my opinion, they would have just done 16 teams if Zion Williamson wasn't going to be there.
They may have just canceled the season, if Zion wasn't going to be there. But Yeah, I don't know. Guys leaving. I don't know what the medical emergency is, and I can't say that.
Yeah, I mean,
He
you really can't
should or
say because
shouldn't be there.
it could be something serious, the family member. So you don't want to, make light of that. You would assume it's a serious situation,
Part of
but
me does feel like as soon as those guys get there, they're like, dude, I got to get out of here for a little while. This is way too far away from playing actual games. This is going to be too long in the bubble. I've got to get out for a little while.
do you think they'll make him quarantine when he gets back? I think they'll be like, hey, just test. If you test negative twice, 2 days in a row, you're good. There's not going to be a 10-day quarantine period for Zion, is there?
Here's what's going to happen. Zion, while he was home for the medical emergency, was quarantining and already did his 10 days. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
I hope, because I want to watch the guy play.
I agree.
But yeah, I assume the Pelicans were like, what? No, please don't do that. I would pay money to see Adam Silver's reaction on that phone call. Just,
he's doing
okay.
what?
He's, okay.
Let's life flight the family member to Orlando.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Get him in the bubble. It's safe there. Now, Shams came out and said that the NBA awards will be based on regular season play through March 11th. So the seeding games won't count. Oh my God, March 11th. Can you believe it has been that long since we've had NBA basketball? That is unreal.
March 11th, 2020. That seems like a different year, doesn't it?
It's like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then I realized I looked up. I was like, it's July through March 11th. What?
No one even remembers back then. How in the world could you pick?
What Giannis is going to win MVP, right? It's not going to be LeBron. Remember, wasn't that a conversation right before the world just stopped? Right?
That we were talking about. Remember.
Hey, LeBron's coming on strong. I don't even remember who's going to win Sixth Man of the Year.
Don't know. That to me, it's as if that season doesn't even exist. Honestly, I'll tell you the real thing here though is, Woj being on hiatus. Shams is coming in big, baby.
Dude, he's crushing it.
He's crushing all the stories, breaking all the news. Woj is just sitting there. I mean, like probably in a ball, crying himself to sleep every night, checking Shams' Twitter account.
No, he's probably just sending 2-worded emails, baby, left and right. Let's go. Now, one thing about those NBA awards, we've already heard that Dennis Schroeder's going to leave, right, once his wife is about to have their second child. And then Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers, he is left as well for some sort of family emergency. Those are two guys that are front runners for Sixth Man of the Year. So the seeding game's not factoring into that award. That helps both of them out because it would seem like both of these guys are going to miss some games. I don't know how many, but some. So we'll see. Now, I don't even remember who is in the running for most of the awards. I'm not even going to pretend. Like, who's going to be Defensive Player of the Year? I have no idea.
Who won it last year? Give it to him again.
It's just give it to Kawhi. It's fine. I don't even know. Is Paul George still good at defense? I don't know. Given this March was forever ago. All right.
The last thing I remember about the season and like Kawhi and Paul George is that they played in like 5 games together the entire season, right? Everyone on that team was hurt and basically in rotation.
And they were just like, when they're all together and healthy, they're incredible.
That's still my pick to win it all this year.
We'll see. Missing a big piece, Montrezl Harrell. But quick update on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Nerlens Noel tweaked his ankle. Sounds like he is fine. Just being cautious. They sat him out of the contact portion of practice on Sunday. One interesting note, though, Darius Bazley has been getting some looks at backup center as a result of this in practice. And, hey, that dude has been one of the most entertaining guys in the NBA bubble if you keep up with his social media. But I wouldn't mind seeing if he can do a little bit of that in the seeding games. And I'm so interested. You talk about Bazley, like where will he fit in? It seems like Billy Donovan's really going to play him in a power forward role. I don't know if his minutes are going to get significantly reduced because you have to figure out how to split up minutes between Lou Dort, Terrence Ferguson, and Andre Robertson, because once again, Andre Robertson went through all of practice, full contact. Now, Billy Donovan said his offense has a ways to go. Yeah, we've been saying that for a while, Billy. That's not surprising. But I'm so curious to see how these minutes get split up between Dort, Ferguson, and Robertson. It's going to be fascinating, Ted.
I'll tell you what's crazy. The Thunder's roster obviously has at times had massive star power, but for the longest time it was Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, and it was basically your turn, my turn offensively, one-on-one basketball. And I feel like now this roster is so deep with a bunch of different guys that can chip in on different nights and play different roles. There's just a whole group of guys that can factor in every night. That's what makes it so fun to watch, man.
Go way back to March and remember how much fun Thunder fans, including us, were having watching this basketball team. And I love all this talk about, hey, these guys, especially the young guys, talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Baisley, they've all gotten stronger. They're developing more physically. They've really taken advantage of the time off. So, dude, I am absolutely fired up to watch this team play. And I still have no expectation of them competing for a championship or anything like that. But I can guarantee you one thing, they're going to be competitive. And the games are going to be damn fun to watch. So I'm so excited for the NBA to come back. And no one pop that bubble, please. Keep the ladies out of the bubble. I understand. I know there's been some whispers, but please don't do that. Please. Come on.
The snitch line already got Dwight Howard. Got him.
Hey, wear a mask, Dwight Howard. People will snitch
I wonder,
on you.
A part of me is like someone honestly called into the snitch line. The other part of me is like it was one of his teammates just trying to give him like a hard time to see what would happen if they called it in.
Now, Dwight Howard is weird enough to call in on himself.
True.
Yeah, he'd be like he realized he's walking around, he didn't have a mask on, and be like, oh, I got to report this on my own. He changed his voice. Hi, this is Jarek. I saw Dwight Howard not wearing a mask. All right, bye. Just that guy is out there.
Whose horrible job is it to call players and be like, hey, listen, so we got a tip on the snitch line.
Hey, were you wearing a mask yesterday? No. Yeah, we know. Someone snitched on you. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. We're going to have to ask you to go ahead and wear one of those, please.
Yeah. All right, Ted, let's move on to our winners and losers of the weekend. And those are brought to you by Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs to help you execute a realistic and achievable weight loss plan designed for you and only you. They've got all kinds of treatments for men and women. Their licensed and trained experts combine diet and exercise with hormone therapies to maximize your results. If you're struggling with low libido or low energy, Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs can help with that too. They also offer Botox and fillers. To get on the path to losing weight, call 918-241-LOSE or visit their Facebook page. If you mention the podcast, you will get a free fat burner injection. Nice. Ted, who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
I'm going to go with some PGA golf for my winners and losers. For winner, I'm going with Jack Nicklaus. Dude, that golf course was set up brutal for these players. They played it last week, and the winners were like 20 under par. This week, it was insanely difficult. The pros looked like a bunch of amateurs out there.
I thought you were giving it to the Golden Bear because he had Corona and he fought it off like a champ.
No big deal. I've got the antibodies. No big deal. I've already weathered the storm.
Not that
I'm good
bad.
to go.
I'm fine.
So if you want me to go shake hands with the winner, I'll do it. It was pretty interesting.
I'll kiss him on the mouth. I'm not scared.
That course is beautiful, was in fantastic condition. I thought the coverage was awesome. I think it's cool to see. I know PGA's been playing, but it's just not the same with when Tiger's out there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. But the one complaint I still have about golf, why is the entire round, why is every shot not nationally televised? Guys, it's 2020. We're in a pandemic. Why am I not seeing from when the first guy tees off to when the last guy puts it in on 18. I don't understand. Now, once again, I'm not a television rights expert or any of that shit, but it doesn't make sense. It drives me insane.
I am the same way. I am furious every single week. It's gone on for years. Okay. Every single week.
You can stream it. You can stream it on the app. I don't want to stream it on the app. I want to watch it on my television.
Okay. So here's the thing. That was my other winner is Amazon, because I click onto Amazon Prime to watch some show, and right there on the top, it says watch the memorial. So I click on it. They got me for my $10 a month for PGA Tour Live. You can watch the first shot to the last shot all the way through the entire thing. That's why they're getting all these fools like me to pay their $10 a month to watch the PGA first shot to last shot. But the fact that I could do it on my TV was pretty cool.
Quick question. Would it be unethical? Would it make me a bad person if I go ahead and do that while I'm living at my mother-in-law's? Would that make me a bad person? She'll never know.
Here, skin her off a 10 spot and be like, here's $10. I ordered the PGA Tour Live app on Amazon.
Yeah, I'll just do that. I'm going to do that for sure.
And then she'll be hit for $10 a month for the rest of her life. And but you gave her that original $10.
There you go.
My loser is Bryson DeChambeau, which has obviously been getting all of the attention for how much weight he's put on and how far he's driving the golf ball.
It's unbelievable what he's doing off the tee.
He's killing it. 400 plus drives. I mean, he hit like 2 or 3 of them on the first day. He had a win behind, but that doesn't matter. And it even got Jack Nicklaus to say that they need to change the golf ball. And I kind of laughed at that. And I was like, well, let's just wait to see if he actually wins anything of note with this new beefed up golf swing that he's got. Well, what happened to Bryson on Friday is what happens to a lot of guys that swing out of their shoes whenever they're teeing off. He hooks it into a creek, has to drop. Then he hits 3 of the crappiest shots I've ever seen in my life. He hits the first 2 out of bounds, and the third somehow
almost goes into the hazard.
Almost goes into the hazard. Almost went out of bounds too. Ends up taking a 10 and ruins his – he was fine. He was going to make the cut. He wasn't playing great, but he was going to make the cut and be there for the weekend. In one hole, he's completely out of the tournament and basically saved it to where Tiger Woods played on the weekend, which at that point, I don't know if Tiger was happy or mad that he had to play Saturday and Sunday, but it was, for me, I'd still rather watch Tiger Woods play a round of golf poorly than I would any of the other guys on tour.
I will say this about DeChambeau when he put up that 10. It was so relatable for all of us. That moment where in his head he is counting strokes, where he is adding it up going, wait, I went out. Okay, so 9. Okay, yeah, I think 10. Yeah, that was one of the most relatable moments from a professional athlete I have ever seen. And I'm sure that GIF will live on in the golf world forever. I mean, forever. And I can't decide if DeChambeau is likable or not now. Are people starting to like him, Ted?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm just kind of part of the group, and I've decided to not like him either. I can't answer why, but I like watching him pound the golf ball. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
But it's one of those things where, had that happened to him and it was in a tournament and there were no cameras around, I would like to know what he would have done, because when you're on camera, you can kind of keep it calm a little bit, keep it composed, go to the next hole. But he was wanting to take that driver and just bash it into the pavement.
He probably would have just jumped into that creek, said, hey, forget about it. See you guys later. Just punch a tree or something. I don't know.
Unfortunately for him, he can't do what I can do. Whenever you take a 10 on a par 5, I usually just mark it 7 and go to the next hole.
Yeah.
But
the maximum you can get is 3 over. I mean, that's golf etiquette. All right, Ted, my winner of the weekend, Canada, the Great White North, America's hat. They love that nickname. And my winner of the weekend is Canada because they are sticking to their roots. The NHL is supposed to play its 2014 playoffs in 2 hub cities, Edmonton and Toronto. 24 teams, Ted. The entire NHL, their season is riding on Edmonton and Toronto. But the Toronto Blue Jays were informed that they won't get to play any of their home games in Canada because the government doesn't think it's safe for players to travel back and forth from the United States. So Canada gave a giant middle finger to Major League Baseball, but they're like, oh, yeah, come on, hockey, let's do this. Hey, we got you. It'll be fun. I don't understand how those two things happen. You can't play any baseball, but we're going to have the entire NHL here in these 2 hub cities. But it's the most Canadian thing I've ever seen.
It's strange. They're in hockey heaven in the middle of summer up there. It's going to be the craziest thing. You typically don't think hockey whenever it's 95 degrees outside, but nonetheless, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I don't know how that whole thing's going to go down. I do too, because
I like playoff hockey. I really do. I'm a big NHL playoffs fan.
Dude, NHL playoffs is like the greatest thing ever. So to imagine that it's going to be playoffs after usually it's brutal, physical, and lights out after they just played an 82-game season. All those guys are going to be coming into this playoff session with fresh legs. I bet it's going to be some of the coolest hockey ever. So I can't wait for that. As for the Blue Jays and why Canada would kind of screw them out of playing at home, maybe it's better. I don't know, but that was pretty weird. That seems like a weird flex, but okay, Canada, you can have it.
How about this? Oklahoma City Blue Jays. Just saying. We got
that is interesting. Where are they going to play them?
I don't know, but I'm sure.
Buffalo.
Stitt, get on the phone.
Play them at Buffalo, right across the river.
Yeah, it is right there. No, I don't know, but I thought that was, and maybe that'll change. But as
you know, what's funny? I actually played a football game in that Toronto Dome.
Really?
Bills. Yep. Played against the Miami Dolphins in 2008.
And I assume that was considered a home game for you guys.
Game. Yeah.
Whether the people from Buffalo just go, okay, I guess we'll go to Toronto.
I think it was maybe like the NFL trying to do their outreach thing. I don't know exactly what that would be.
Sweet. Hey, Toronto's cool. That's a cool city.
I mean,
you didn't go for like a couple days or anything. You went for the game.
It's
came
only
home.
like, what is it, like an hour and a half drive?
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, we didn't go do anything. We just showed up, played a game, and left. So, but it was pretty cool, I guess.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, my loser of the weekend, speaking of the NFL is my loser of the weekend. What the hell is going on? Okay, so the league puts out the schedule. Rookies report July 21st. Quarterbacks, injured players coming back July 23rd. Camp starts for the rest of the guys. Everybody's reporting July 28th. You got all these, verified accounts on Twitter saying, hey, training camp is a go. Let's roll. I'm getting all excited. They're putting out preseason dates if those games are played. It all looked like everything was going according to plan and everything was normal. And then players started tweeting. And I'm not talking you're just, slappies. Not just any guys. I'm talking Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, J.J. Watt, Kyler Murray, Drew Brees, on and on and on. All of the best players in the National Football League are saying, hold up, what's the damn plan? And J.J. Watt put out a tweet explaining what the players don't know as of right now And a couple of those things are what the acclimation period is going to be, what testing will be, how many preseason games there will be, if there's any at all. They don't know how close contacts will be, like the contact tracing and how those people will be monitored if a guy tests positive. There's no details on an opt-out clause for guys that are high risk or have family members that are high risk. Like, what the hell is going on? How have they not addressed these with the NFLPA? I'm reading all of this going, how is this even possible? We thought the NFL, if anybody, like they've had all this time to figure these things out, ramp it up, and all of a sudden all these players are saying, no, we don't know any of these details. And now I'm worried about the NFL season starting on time when I thought the NFL, if anybody was going to play on time and it was going to be fine, it was going to be the NFL. I mean, the shield is Teflon, right? But the best players in the league are saying this, Ted. Like, this is alarming for me.
It looks like Roger Goodell never came out of his basement after the draft, right? Like, what has he been doing? I mean, we had the draft forever ago. We've known this thing is going to be an issue for football, for all sports. We've been trying to ramp things up. It has been strange that we haven't heard anything from the NFL. It's always been like, and it made us believe that, oh, they're just plowing forward. They're focused. They've got all these things in place. They know exactly what they're going to do. It turns out, no, they were all on vacation, and maybe they just thought this thing was going to play itself out. I have no idea, but the NFLPA is they want answers to a bunch of questions. And my guess is the NFL undervalued how involved the NFLPA was going to be in some of this stuff.
Right.
And, I think the league probably said, we'll get the guys back to their teams, get them in training camp. We'll test them, whatever, protocol that they came out with, and figured that everyone would be good with it. And my guess is the NFLPA, whenever they had their little exchange, wanted answers to way more questions than the NFL.
They're like, wait,
thought about.
We figured these guys would just be cool with all of this, which, I mean, some people were thinking, but yeah, if you're interested, go check out the hashtag #WeWantToPlay on Twitter, and you will see a laundry list of who's who in the National Football League throwing out a tweet that basically said, hey, what about our safety? What's the damn plan? And guy after guy after guy kept putting out similar tweets. And I was just like, how is this happening? Like, how have these things not been addressed? It blew my mind. It blew my damn mind, man.
Here's one thing, though, because I'll tell you right now, if I was in the NFL, I would be definitely saying we want to play, or I want to play. But, when Mahomes and Russell Wilson and J.J. Watt and Drew Brees start texting out, like, they don't speak for, like, 85% of the NFL.
No, these are all the super rich guys.
These guys make, like, this group of guys make, like, 80% of the money in the NFL. It's a very small group. And everyone else is like, would you shut up so we can go play the season? Like, if we require all of these things to happen, it's going to make it more difficult for there to be a season and put it on hold, which I know you want to go on vacation with your $40 million that you made last year, but I'm just trying to pay the bills. Can we please go play some football?
I would like for, some backup quarterbacks to be like, hey, man, if Mahomes doesn't want to play, sign me. I'm cool. Like, I'll accept all the risks
for half what he would have made.
Hey, I'll do it for $250 million. You don't even have to give me the 500.
Think about how much money you're saving.
But yeah. So I think very important few weeks. Next few days going to be huge.
It was
the
crazy.
National Football League.
I'm the same as you, though. Like, I've thought for the longest time that the NFL, they're moving forward. It doesn't matter what happens. And then late last week, it was like you hit the brakes hard on that deal.
So I'll say this. J.C. Treader, who is now the president of the NFLPA, He and I were teammates in Cleveland. I was his backup. I would have loved to see him send out that tweet because I would have sent a couple texts saying, hey, I know what JC's saying, but 28th, I'll be there. No questions asked. I'll be there. And if I'm the starting center because JC doesn't want to show up because he has to represent the PA and has to do his thing, like I get it. But, hey, I'm ready to roll, coach. Like I'm just telling you, that's exactly what I would have done.
It's like, I'll send you my
This is finally my break.
I will quarantine in my actual locker at the facility for the next 14 days if you need me to.
Yeah. All right, Ted, let's finish up with everyone's favorite segment, Keeping It Local, where we highlight what's going on in the great state of Oklahoma. And this one is sports related. We've seen lots of athletic departments across the country cutting sports, entire programs. Saw what happened at Stanford, UConn, Akron, several other places. Jenny Carlson wrote an article in the Oklahoman that made it clear, and it did make me feel better. It made it clear that Oklahoma State and Oklahoma aren't going to do that. It's got quotes from Chad Weiberg. It's got quotes from Joe Castiglione. While there have been significant budget cuts, salary reductions, probably some furloughs that are coming down the line, OU and OSU will continue to fund all athletic scholarships, and they have no plans of cutting any programs. Now, one big reason they don't have to do that, like some of these other schools that you're seeing around the country, is because they do not rely on what's called allotments. And that's student fees, school funding, government funding. They don't rely on those allotments for their operating expenses as an athletic department. So who knows what will happen if something happens to football season, but I'm just going to take this as a positive, where the people in the leadership roles at Oklahoma State and Oklahoma are saying, hey, we are not cutting sports. So for any of the listeners out there that are a big fan of OU baseball, and that would be way down the list, or Oklahoma State wrestling, right? Which would also be way down the list of getting cut. But some of these sports in this state have huge followings. And I had heard some people a little concerned about maybe something that their son or daughter that really loves going and watching and supporting, like they were a little worried that maybe it would end up getting cut as a result of what's going on right now in college athletics. And I was relieved, for lack of a better term, to see the leaders at these schools say, no, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. But, the furlough situation, I honestly think that if we don't have football, like if we're getting down to it, which, here we are trending towards the end of July where training camp and stuff's about to happen.
You just think like we're essentially going to know the fate of college football season in the next 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. I mean, if Oklahoma successfully has their game moved up, we're a week away from being a month out from playing a football game at OU. So
let's go.
I mean, but if that doesn't happen and they have to move it back to spring or whatever, my guess is they furlough every single program instantly, because there's a ton of maintenance and salary and tons of cost to keep all those operational. And we saw the Iowa State letter. We talked about it. They have $40-some million in unfunded,
unfunded expenses
that are like mandatory expenses, like,
fixed costs.
Yeah, fixed costs. So, and think about Oklahoma's list is probably, I don't know, maybe twice that size. I saw the USA Today release of the schools that, revenue and expenses. And I think Oklahoma was like 160 something million with cost of like 150 some million. So we had a little bit of a pad, but this athletic departments don't operate like a traditional business, where profits get, pushed out. It's like they spend everything that they make. They allot all of that money and, continue to fund programs. And Oklahoma routinely gives between $5 and $7 million, I think, back to the university general fund of the university. So Like if football's not there, I mean, I would think that something serious has to happen, at least in the near term, to save all of the programs in the long term.
Yeah. I just have my fingers crossed that football season's going to work out, right? I think if you're a fan of people keeping their jobs, of people keeping their businesses, you got to be hoping for the best.
The ramifications are huge. I mean, within the Oklahoma athletic department, you think about all of the people, the ancillary positions, trainers, equipment guys, I mean, strength and conditioning, facility
all the people
maintenance.
behind the scenes that people don't realize, the huge difference they make in student athletes and coaches' lives. Oh man,
it's a massive
hope
group of people, and that doesn't even get into the bars, restaurants, places that sell T-shirts and jackets and all that stuff. I mean, it's a
this got depressing quickly.
Well, it's not depressing because it's going to happen, Gabe. Keep it positive. Positive.
Right. All right, Ted. Episode 26 in the books. Now we'll have a new podcast that'll drop Thursday morning. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 2 to 6 on Sports Talk 1400. You can hear me on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great week. Until next time, we appreciate you all for listening. And do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.
Just one more time.